Hi, I'm Bill Hodges, and this is Spotlight on Government, and I have one who is fast becoming a favorite guest with me today, Lisa Montelione, who is the councilwoman in Tampa from District 7.
Yes, sir.
And you're halfway through your first term.
Yes, hard to believe it has gone that fast.
I don't believe it, really. I was surprised when I looked down. I thought, wow.
I know. It's been about a year since we've been together.
Are you having fun?
I'm having a blast. I absolutely love what I do, and I couldn't imagine doing anything else at this time in my life. I really do enjoy the citizens and helping them and being out in the community and being able to make a difference.
Since the first time you were on, a whole lot more people have gotten to know who you are and your background and that. But for those who don't know you, let's drop back a little bit.
Okay.
What made you, first of all, run for politics? I can't imagine any sane person doing that, so be careful of your answer.
Well, you know, I've always been involved on the periphery. I was an employee at Hillsborough County government. I was a volunteer for various campaigns, some on the presidential level, but some on the local level. And volunteering a lot for nonprofit organizations and seeing all of the things that politicians, especially at a local level, have an influence over. It was important to me when I saw that this seat was one that I could run and I could win, that I put myself out there and decided to serve the citizens of the city.
Wow. And after watching all of this, you still decided to do it.
Yes. Yes. I mean, in this capacity, I have the opportunity to really serve those who I volunteered with for many years, or to help correct some of the things that I thought needed to be corrected, or pay attention to some of the things that really needed more of a voice and presence in District 7.
Out of curiosity, have you ever sat down, looked at your calendar and said, I spent this many hours on the job this month?
No, I haven't. I just know that every day and every week when I look at my calendar, I see very little time that is free time.
But it's a part-time job.
Yeah, well, like I said, with over an $800,000 budget and over 300,000 citizens in the city of Tampa, 90,000 of them within District 7. District 7 is the largest city council district. Obviously, we have 3 who serve citywide, but of the district representatives, both in land area and population, District 7 is the largest.
I think it's funny, ladies and gentlemen, how many people think that, well, they're politicians and they get paid all this huge amounts of money, but you're at what, 42?
41,000.
And that's not chump change
No.
for a lot of people in this town, believe me.
No, it's not.
A lot of them don't make that kind of money. But I would estimate, I'm going to guesstimate from other council people I've talked to, that you put in between 80 and 85, maybe even 90 hours a week on a regular basis.
At least, because we have our agendas to review every week. We have Thursday council meetings, but we also sit on several different boards as a part of our responsibilities as council members. So I have actually 3 board meetings a week. 2 of them with, not every week for the same board, but I serve on the Metropolitan Planning Organization, and this year I'm vice chair of that. And as a member of the MPO, I also chair the Livable Roadways Committee. I sit on the Affordable Housing Advisory Board, the Hillsborough River Advisory Board, and those are countywide. So an Affordable Housing Advisory Board. So those 3 boards are countywide boards that I sit on and represent the city as a member. But that's in addition to our regular city council meetings.
Plus you're expected to be at every new business opening in your district.
Well, I leave
Bar
that.
mitzvahs, birthdays.
Yeah, the mayor is pretty good at doing all of the ribbon cuttings citywide, but yes, the ones in my district, I attend those. And even some that are celebrating events such as at the History Center, when we reveal those that are going to be honored with monuments along the Riverwalk, things of that nature that are monumental, to use the term,
Sure.
Events in the city. So yes.
Let's talk about District 7. Would
Sure.
you outline it a little bit so people can get a feeling of District 7 in the city is?
Well, District 7, as I said, is the largest district of all the districts in the city. It runs from the Temple Terrace city line to Armenia. It dips below or south of Bush Boulevard at Temple Crest and in Sulphur Springs, so the area is just south of Bush Boulevard by the river. And then we cross Bush Boulevard, we go all the way to Fowler Avenue. I've got the first 250 feet of all Fowler Avenue between the Temple Terrace line and Armenia. But continuing on the north side of Fowler, all of the campus of the University of South Florida, Moffitt Cancer Center, Shriners Hospital, and then it follows the Claw Golf Course up to the Pasco County line. So it skips over a little bit of Bruce B. Downs between Fowler and Bears, but then picks up again and goes to the Pasco County line. So all of Tampa Palms, all of New Tampa, except for Pebble Creek, because they are not annexed into the city.
So Florida Hospital is in your zone, is it?
Florida Hospital is not.
Just on the edge there.
I have about a few hundred feet of Fletcher Avenue. Yeah.
Doesn't get that far over there.
It doesn't go that far west. My portion of Fletcher Avenue, the portion of Fletcher Avenue is that behind the University of South Florida.
The only reason I mentioned that was I wanted to put a quick shout out to the people there at Florida Hospital. 3 weeks ago, I went in there under the great skill of Dr. DeWeese, the surgeon, had back surgery, spinal surgery, and they all treated me like gold. So thank you very much. All right, now back to you.
Amazing to me that was 3 weeks ago that you had back surgery and you're sitting here today. That's
well,
just
my doctor doesn't
phenomenal.
believe in drugs, and neither do I. But
Well,
the power of attitude is a very important thing, and that's what we have to stay with, right?
That's, yeah, that I try and live by that myself. Attitude is 90%
why I like
of the
you.
game. Yeah. Well, Florida Hospital is an important piece of what I do because they are one of the 4 that belong to the Innovation Alliance. And working in District 7, the Innovation Alliance partners are, for those who don't know, Florida Hospital, Moffitt Cancer Center, the University of South Florida, and, oh, my mind just went blank on the 4th one. USF,
That's why you
Moffitt,
never say there
Florida
are 4 so you
Hospital.
can stop.
Busch Gardens, how can I forget Busch Gardens and my friend Jim Dean? Actually, Jim is chairing the Innovation Alliance, so I'm sorry, Jim, my apologies.
I love Busch Gardens.
Oh,
Great,
so do
great
I.
place.
So do I. I live within sight and sound of Busch Gardens, so I've always loved the
My
park.
back
and,
prevented me from going to the music series they have this spring.
Week, yeah.
And I'm looking forward to next year.
Yeah, it's a wonderful place. I mean, it's a centerpiece. All 4 of those are tremendous employers in our area. I actually worked for Busch Gardens when I was a student at the University of South Florida. So I don't know why that it didn't just come right out of my head. But the Innovation Alliance is a very important strategic partner to the folks in District 7, whether you live around the area or work there, as many of my constituents in New Tampa do work in one of those 4 institutions.
Oh, there are powerhouses in our area, and they're, you know, the more of those kind of things we can have here, the stronger Tampa will be.
One of the largest employment centers in the county, behind West Shore and downtown. And that's actually a nice segue into one of the efforts that the Planning Commission helped me with this past year since I saw you last. I think we had just started the process, but the vision plan process for the area, the planning area, they narrowed a little bit, so it goes from the Temple Terrace city line to 275 Bush to Fowler, and it brought out 200 residents over the course of a year, not all 200.
Great, that's
every
almost as many that
meeting.
voted in the mayor election. I'm
Oh,
joking.
yeah. We're working on that voter turnout by being more engaged in the community, and I really do hope that, you know, individuals become more involved in the process because it is their community. And, you know, I tell people all the time, if I don't know about a problem, it's very difficult to help you with it.
Exactly.
So, and with a district so large, it's hard to be in every corner of the area. The same thing with the mayor. It's hard for him to be in every corner of the city every single day. So it's important that individuals reach out to us because
And, you
they're
know,
our eyes and ears.
Even beyond that, it's important, ladies and gentlemen, to put it in writing, either an email or a note of some kind or another. to catch Councilwoman Montelione at dinner sometime and say, oh, by the way, as you walk by her table, you know, it's hard to say, well, okay, I'll remember all that by the time I get back to my office. If it's in your interest, write it down, send it in, right?
Email, yes, email is very important. I am involved in social media, so that's another way that I keep involved.
On Facebook?
On Facebook and on Twitter. I have a lot of people who contact me sometimes solely by those means. I have a constituent in Arbor Green. That's how we communicate. He
And
sees
you will
something and
accept something with a stamp on
tweets.
it, right?
Yes, I still, yes, the post office still delivers to City Hall. So yes, you can reach me by regular mail as well. And it's important that we use every possible means of communication. There are so many different available means. And that was one of the things during my campaign that I talked about, that I wanted to really improve the communication between the citizens and the city.
You talked about the vision plan.
Yes.
What kind of results are we seeing from it now?
Well, it was just adopted by resolution by the city in February. So now we're working on moving that vision plan to a community plan through the city's processes, but that is going to take a while. There are several community plans that are waiting in the wings to be tackled. However, there are things that can be done without the full community plan being done, what we refer to as low-hanging fruit. And in every industry, there's certain things that you can go out and you can do. So I'm trying to improve the relationships between the businesses that are located here. We have some of the largest employers, as I said before, in the county. So reaching out to those employers and getting them involved. We want to do some improvements and cosmetic things, such as improvements in pedestrian facilities, which is very important as an MPO member that we work on. We're unfortunately #2 in the country for pedestrian and bicyclist deaths. So one of the things that you'll see is now we have in the Terrace Park community sharrows, which are those arrows with the little bicycles on them, so that people recognize, you know, watch out for bicyclists, you're sharing the road with them. The other is we're going to start construction on bicycle lanes down Bougainvillea Avenue, or Bougainvillea as some people say, which is the street that runs parallel to Bush and Fowler. So it's an alternative route that people can take and stay off Bush Boulevard or stay off Fowler Avenue. There's a crossing, a mid-block crossing that's going in that is on Bush Boulevard. It's the first time I learned that the Florida Department of Transportation has ever done a mid-block crossing. And unfortunately, it came out of a tragic circumstance when a young little girl, I was gonna say young woman, this was a little girl, was killed on Bush Boulevard. And Jayla was a very special young lady, and this crossing, you know, has been a long time in the works. Unfortunately, it was not there in time to help her, but I do want to caution everyone when they're out walking and bicycling to be aware of your surroundings, because you know, when cars are traveling on the road, sometimes people are distracted. And all too often, they're not really paying attention because of all those distractions in the car. And it's a learning process. And now the state law is that texting and driving is illegal. That was one of the great things to come out of this legislative session.
I hand my phone to my wife when we're driving down the road. Otherwise, it doesn't get answered.
That's right. That's right. It's very, very important. And if you have to take a call, it only takes a second to pull over to the side of the road, which often I have to do. You know, sometimes I know someone is trying to get a hold of me and it's a very important call, and I'll pull over into a parking lot and I'll take the call, you know, in the parking lot, because it's not worth the consequences of what might happen when you're distracted.
One of the things you folks have done, and I am really, really happy with, and I am mindful of the plight of the homeless.
Yes.
I really am. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm mindful of the plight of the homeless, but I'm also mindful of when people jump out in front of my car to try and wash my windshield, put pop in my hand or a bottle of water or whatever. If they get hit, it's probably their fault, but I'm going to feel bad, and I'm going to be the one to go to court, or I'm the one that's going to have to pay the deductible on my insurance. And not having that happen now is making a big difference, especially right up here on the corner of Fowler and Bruceby Downs. There used to be squads of them standing in each one of the four corners.
Right. Well, we did pass an ordinance banning panhandling to motor vehicles. And we, have seen a decrease. There still is a permission for anyone selling newspapers so that you can still pick up your Times
powerful.
or your Tribune or your Epic or your Sentinel. And, that is still permissible. And there is an exemption on Sundays as well for panhandlers. That was an ordinance passed a little while ago. The one that is coming up now, where we heard a report from our police department, from our legal staff, and from Maria Barkas, who is the new CEO of the Homeless Coalition. And we're looking at another ordinance similar to what St. Petersburg or Clearwater has just passed, although in my eyes, those restrictions are a little bit too drastic, because in Clearwater, they have different circumstances with the beaches, but in Clearwater, it's illegal even to pass out samples of a product or flyers for your small business, on the corner. So, I'm not a fan of that type of restriction, but I do a lot of work with homeless. I have always volunteered quite a bit with the homeless population, and there are so many tragic stories that you hear.
Oh, that's what I said. I'm mindful of the plight of these folks. I just don't know quite what to do.
Right. And it's a big issue. Luckily, we're getting some direction from Housing and Urban Development. HUD has started a campaign a few years ago called Opening Doors. I sit on a committee for that, as do all of the folks who are working in the homeless sector. So it's the first time I think all of these folks have really sat around the table and coordinated efforts. So that's a wonderful thing. What isn't wonderful is that they didn't bring any more money with them. So
Bring along regulations, leave the money at home.
Right. So when HUD called this meeting a while back, a few months back, I was like, oh, this is wonderful. And then we got the sad news that no, it didn't come with any additional funding. And that's one thing that sets us apart from other areas in the state where you see less homeless population, even though their overall population is higher, because they have dedicated funding streams to channel into affordable housing or for emergency assistance. So people who are maybe 1 or 2 paychecks away from being homeless don't have the money to make their rent every month. Well, other communities have a dedicated funding source to help with those types of programs. And with the unemployment we've seen, with the economic downturn we saw, especially in the construction industry, which is an industry I'm a part of, it's very difficult to see painters and electricians and folks out of work that you've worked alongside for many years. And not everybody had nest eggs.
These people don't want to be out of work. They don't want to be on the public dole.
No.
They want to be working.
Yes, absolutely they do. But because of the circumstance of the construction industry, a lot of them found themselves, in just that circumstance, 1, 2 paychecks away from being homeless. So right now, actually, since this will air before the 20th, there is funding available for that rental assistance, and you can contact the Homeless Coalition for details on how to get assistance if you are in danger of being evicted because your rent is due and you just can't make that payment this month. So contact the Homeless Coalition for information on that. They'd appreciate that. And back to the ordinance, we'll be hearing another staff report on the 27th of June. I think June 27th, check my notes. And we'll be discussing some of the additional regulations that we want to put in place. And those are to make our city, safe and have people feel comfortable when they're using an ATM, at a bank, or when they're sitting at an outdoor cafe. And you don't want to be, feeling like you're in an unsafe area. And really, our crime rate is very, very low, and most of these people are not dangerous, but, it's just a perception. And if we can help, people feel a little bit better, a little bit safer, then that's one of the things we want to do. But at the same token, on the same, vein, I said when we passed the panhandling ordinance, personally, I am very deeply invested and help the homeless in any way I can. But, so I didn't want to pass that just for my own self, but for my constituents, because many of my constituents wanted the panhandling ordinance. So I said then that I hope all of the individuals will step up and really help the homeless find their way. And in any form of fashion, that could be in a monetary donation, that could be volunteering with a program, that could be spreading the word about programs like I just said, rental assistance and things like that. We had a lot of foreclosures, especially in the new Tampa area. People were very surprised when affordable housing came to us and talked to us about the affordable housing programs that we have at the city. Many people thought that foreclosures had hit some of the hardest areas economically in our city, East Tampa, or some of the Sulphur Springs area, but no, most of the foreclosures that occurred in the new Tampa area. So we had people who had, raided their 401ks, who were trying to keep their children in school, in private school, had to move them to public schools. We had people whose cars had to be downgraded from the large lease payment they had to a more affordable one. So we had a lot of people struggling, and the folks who are living on the edge could be your neighbor.
Easily.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen that happen. Mm-hmm. Even out where I live in Sun City Center, the number mm-hmm. of people that need assistance has gone up.
Oh, absolutely. And the program dollars that are coming from the federal government or from the state government are going away, and in some cases for entire programs, or they're being severely cut. So, we turn to the private sector, where a lot of people talk about public-private partnerships. So we turn to the private sector a lot, and I've got to give kudos to Jeff Vinnick and the Lightning. The Lightning Foundation has done tremendous work in that area. Todd Lewicki has led many efforts, and I'm very grateful for the Lightning. And shout out, you did one for Florida Hospital. We'll have a shout out to the Lightning. Unfortunately, they didn't perform as well as I had hoped in this short season, but we're going to come back strong. Year. We're going to come back strong next season. But there's a lot that is going on in that vein. The homeless numbers have dropped. Things
are getting better.
Things are getting better. We did the homeless count this year, and the numbers came out much lower than they did the previous year. So we're very grateful for that, and hopefully that trend will continue. But that's just one of the areas that I work in. Transportation, talking about the economy and things getting better.
Let's not miss transportation. That's one of my hot buttons.
Yeah.
I think we need a much better transportation system, and that's no reflection upon our bus service. But bus services are limited.
Right. And again, it comes down to dollars, and the amount of money that we have to provide services to those who use HART. The area of my district has the highest ridership of any of the lines. The Nebraska line, the Florida Avenue line has the highest ridership. And I think a lot of that is because many of the people can't afford to have 2 or 3 cars, in this district. They have 1 car, and they have the insurance that goes along with it, maybe 2 if they've got teenagers. And
we've got a golf cart.
We don't have that mode of transportation covered in the multimodal facilities at the MPO, but I think we do in community plans in Hillsborough County. They do count golf cart travel in Sun City Center because it is an important mode of travel for the folks in there.
We've got a car and a golf cart, and it gets us by very nicely.
Yeah. So, you can really reduce your expenses every month by using public transportation. And what we want to do is we want to increase the ridership in the Metro Rapid lines, which are running now. We have our first Metro Rapid line on HART available. We have flex service. We have Sunshine Ride for those who are disabled. But it's very important to me to improve mass transit, especially for my folks in New Tampa and in the North Tampa area, because getting to and from work when you work at Florida Hospital or at Busch Gardens or Moffitt or at USF, it's very difficult. And those who live through the Bruce B. Downs widening know how difficult it is. And you can only widen a road so far.
You can't pave over America. I'm sorry. It just can't get done, folks. You've got to get some different kinds of transportation. And I'm a big fan of rail.
Yes, and I think that rail is an important option for us to pursue. if you think about not just the area that I represent in District 7, which it would be tremendously helpful to have a connection to from USF to either the Pasco County area or going out to downtown, which I think is a very, very helpful line. It was going to be one of the first lines, but that plan fell by the wayside from USF to downtown. But also from downtown to West Shore to Pinellas County. The idea of connecting the West Shore area with the Gateway area in Pinellas would make that area the second largest employment center, second only to Atlanta in the Southeast.
Wow.
Now, when you consider the impact that we can have connecting those two areas over the bay, that would really, you know, to use a phrase that's been coined before, put us on the map.
Well, when I go to Atlanta, just speaking of Atlanta alone, when I go to Atlanta, I don't even think of renting a car. I go to the airport, I get on the Rapid, and from that time, Marta takes me all over the place.
That's right. And people who come into Tampa International Airport, which their master plan does include a rail option to move people between the rental car lots and the main terminal, but they can also include in their master plan or have included a rail connection. We also have one in Pinellas County that stops just short of coming to the Bay, because there hasn't been a dedicated, again, speaking of funding sources, there hasn't been a funding source to put rail over the bridge. Now, the Howard Franklin Bridge, as many are probably unaware, is being planned for replacement in the next 20 years. And planning takes place over a very long period of time because there is so much that goes into making it just the right element and all the engineering and all of those things that go into a structure of that nature. So the planning has already started. There's what's called a PD&E study that is being embarked on that needs to include a rail connection between West Shore and Gateway and make us the second largest employment center in the Southeast. It would be a phenomenal thing.
I was disgusted when the governor turned down the opportunity for us to connect between Tampa and Orlando. I mean, that, to me, I hate Route 4. I go out 674 as far as I can, cut back through and around. I miss Route 4 as much as possible. People die on that road constantly. And decent transportation throughout the county. If you go to any major metropolitan area, you're going to find a decent transportation. Most of it will be rapid. Right. And thank you for your support of Tampa Bay Community Network. We really appreciate that. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Bill Hodges. This is Spotlight on Government. You're unique, you're special, you're great. Tell yourself so often because you are, you know. And thank you, Councilman Montelione, for being on the show. And I look forward to having you again.
Thank you, Bill. Appreciate it.